Fantastic. We are here with another session of the Art of Intelligence today. And we have a very special guest, Mr. Chris Voce, and we are going to talk about all things AI. Welcome to our podcast. As we all know, this podcast is specifically about AI use cases and how they better the world. The way this podcast came about was when working with different artificial intelligence wanting customers. We decided to find out what they really wanted with AI, and many of them didn't know. So, this podcast was created to find different ways that AI can help not only business, but everyday folks. And that was the Art of Intelligence, which actually the logo, the name, everything was created by AI. So we are AI for AI by AI. And today with Chris Voce, we are very lucky to have this man come talk to us. We'll be doing a quick bite size. So if you're on a treadmill or you're driving right now, hope you enjoy the show. Chris, how are you this morning?
Great, Barlas. First off, thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be here and grateful for the audience taking some time to listen.
Yeah, fantastic. Chris and I used to work together back at Forrester a million years ago, and since then he's gone through Citrix and G2 and many other things. And I'm going to let him give his background. But before we get started, Chris, can you answer the question that all our guests answer, which is if time and money was of no object, what would be your dream vacation?
Barlas, believe it or not, my dream vacation, I would probably not go far. I might stay at home or I might go up to anyone listening from Maine or has been to Maine might know that they call cottages or cabins camps up there. And the reason is I'm a project guy. My sister and I were talking a couple of weeks ago. I just wish I could borrow like maybe a few of your hobbies. And one of them is construction, carpentry. I'm a DIY guy. And probably a great example is since leaving G2 at the end of the summer, my wife and she gave me a long leash in the family to spend some time up there. And probably an example of some of the favorite things to do, I just decided I was going to take on something big, never done in a big outdoor renovation, and decided I want to dive in. And before, I spent probably a couple months on and off. I was up there for little bits at a time, building about 50 feet of rock wall, like a retaining wall, because I'd been
Whoa.
leveling out the land, took all this land out, leveled it out, big French drains all around the property, building a fire pit with a pergola over it. A lot of the stuff I haven't done. I'm like the world's worst person to be in a conversation about your favorite show that you're watching right now because I'm probably more likely to be watching YouTube's different construction videos or electrical, plumbing, whatever it is. And so, given infinite time, and I probably wouldn't go anywhere, I'd take advantage of doing that. And then maybe even some of the other hobbies, 3D printing, all sorts of stuff.
Wow. That's a really great answer. And it really shows to your contentness in life, which is awesome because so many people we talk to, including myself, are always out searching for, oh, I want to see this, I want to see that. But I can tell you that one of the happiest times that I had in my life was outside the fact that COVID happened. But when COVID did happen, I was living in Pennsylvania on 5 acres in a house. And every day I brought in a new project. So it's funny you're saying French drains because I did the French drain. I did a DIY fence, 8 foot fence all around the outside of the house, built all kinds of stuff for the outside. And then since then I haven't built anything and it's been more vacations than building. So I'm envious of what you're saying. I think it sounds wonderful, actually.
It's not like I don't like going places too. I've been listening and everyone's had some great spots to visit, and I think that just adds to the list. But I think for me, there's a challenge to it to just make sure you're challenged mentally, learning something new. There's a lot of problem solving. It's okay, I don't have my skid steer anymore and I gotta move a 300-pound boulder. What am I gonna do? And so I probably moved about 40 or 50 tons of material. And so it was good hard work. And then since you're up in Maine, could work till midnight by headlamp a lot too. Just
That
me and
sounds
the
like
dog.
so much fun. I would love to. If you need any help, let me know.
Uh,
I'm happy to come
Careful.
on up to Maine and come hang out with you and work on stuff. Do you get to see any moose or any animals while you're up there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's never a shortage. Sometimes you don't want to see them.
Yeah.
We've got mole problems in the yard right now. But
Oh
anyways, Barlas, we're
no.
not here to talk about that. I
Oh
know
yeah, you're
we
right.
should
We could
probably get
talk
back
forever
on
on
topic.
just yard stuff, but I think the life stuff makes it interesting. The AI part is why we're here, and I'm really a practice what I preach when it comes to AI. Just last night, I'm Turkish, and my mom had left my daughter a weaving kit. It's a hard piece of plastic with pegs on it, and it's supposed to be able to make a flower out of wool. But the instructions were very small, hard to read, and in very complicated Turkish. A lot of knitting terms in Turkish that I've never heard. And so I just took a picture of it and I told Perplexus, can you translate this and explain it back to me in the way that a 5-year-old could understand it? And it did. And it explained to me step by step exactly what it was saying as a 5-year-old would explain it. And I completely understood. And that's just one of millions of ways that AI is starting to change our world. Chris, can you give us a little bit background on yourself and don't hold back on any details? We'd love to learn more about you.
Fantastic. Barlos, of course, you and I shared some time together at Forrester, as you said, and I'm very grateful for that experience. I got to do a lot there as an analyst, cloud, collaboration. Big part of what I supported customers with was in supporting Microsoft licensing negotiations with customers or diving in deep into Microsoft licensing. A lot of client need there. Also had the opportunity for the past, I'd say 8 years while I was there, the last 8 years to lead the infrastructure and ops team. And our team covered a lot, whether it been cloud, infrastructure, ops, management, monitoring. Probably the most relevant to our discussion today is the work that we were doing around employee experience and technology. And that was around both the micro and the macro of employee experience. So, micro, how do you ensure as a business leader, as an IT leader, how do you ensure people have what they need to do their best work? And what's the role of that technology and engagement? And we can get in a little bit deeper as to why that might be important. But of course, we were also looking at the macro and trends, emerging trends like automation or even focusing on AI. Um, how is that impacting labor and the workforce and thinking about some of those macro trends business and IT leaders need to be aware of as they were trying to foster their own positive employee experience or whatever the business strategy would be? As you'd said, I also had the chance from Forrester to join Citrix, and that was a lot of fun because I got to engage with Citrix customers and product prospects around employee experience and learned a ton because of course in that kind of role. So you can I was almost like an in-house analyst there and got to speak with a lot of customers and then just really smart people around the world, both HR, IT leaders about employee experience. Got to write an ebook there, Thrive with Employee Experience for Citrix.
What's the name of the ebook? I'm going to put the link in here.
Thrive with Employee Experience. And I can drop the link. Actually, you can get to it on my LinkedIn profile
Sweet.
as well. And
Yeah,
then,
for those that are listening, we're gonna have Chris's LinkedIn profile and the link to the book in the summary of on the main page.
fantastic. Thanks, Barlas.
Yeah.
And after I left Citrix, I had the chance to join G2. G2 was a fascinating organization, amazing company, and I think we could get sidetracked in a moment. Of course, we at Forrester, and I was part of one of the teams that built the original wave, going back about 25 years ago. And if for those in the audience who might not be familiar with G2, you think of it like a Yelp for business software. If you've ever, I don't know, Googled AI, best AI writing assistant, G2 might be at the top. And the power of peer reviews was just fantastic because, of course, your Gartners, your Forresters, and analysts you can offer fantastic opinion about and supporting a lot of the decisions that we make. But boy, there's a lot of value from our peers in helping support great decisions. And we always care what our friends are doing when we're trying to
Absolutely.
make our own minds up. And so that takes us right up to that moment. And since I left, as I alluded earlier, I left G2 at the end of the summer and have since just been working independently with companies, doing some advisory work, supporting with some thought leadership. And that takes us right up to this moment.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. That's a great career you've had, Chris. It's always nice to see folks that have stayed true to their career and gone through and really enjoy what they do and the people they work with. So that's fantastic. Chris, can you give me an answer on your thoughts on AI? And when I say
Ah,
thoughts, we've got so many things happening right now, from personal use of AI with ChatGPT, Perspective, and many others. And then you've got DeepSeek coming in from China with their H800 chips and training them to do large language models. And then you're doing the inference models of not just training, but then going into usage. Can you give us a little overview on your thoughts on AI globally?
yeah, in a nutshell, I would say it's
Nutshell,
complicated.
yeah.
Yeah, and just the fact that it's complicated makes conversations like this and all of the discussion right now going on around the world to help. And we're in the early stages still. AI, as you had alluded to earlier, I was listening to your podcast with Natalie last night, and it goes back quite a way. Still very misunderstood in terms of anything from the technical side, architecture, infrastructure. How do we monitor it? How does this change? How is this going to reshape labor around the world? And probably what I was excited to spend some time talking about is just getting into the people. What is this? What kind of staying true to the show? What kind can we spend some time talking about the intersection of use cases and people and what this might mean in terms of engagement and experience?
Oh, I'm going to use that intersection of use cases and people. There's so many great words that come out of Forrester. I think Julie Maringer brought up, what was it? Got IT or get it? Got it. And then another one was intersection of, what was it? Technology and business, and then moving at the speed of business. All these great Forrester sayings. I love it. Keep going. Sorry. Don't mean to take you off track.
No, that I think that carries us right up to this moment. I'd say it's complicated. Obviously, massive potential, not very well understood in terms of even how to deploy it within the enterprise. There's so many pilots happening, failing, trying to architect the right solutions, running up against technical challenges, business challenges, understanding the value and just in even in there in the values, okay, if I'm going to make these kind of massive investments, what am I going to get out of it? And it, early, I know, especially in the investment community, they were looking for a lot of near-term savings in terms of labor and how can we be saving money, eliminating roles, and really the benefits have been more likely to be found in productivity use cases.
I 100% agree with that statement. It's AI, whereas I think you can make a case for light initial savings when it comes to things, but the investment that you have to put into AI kind of takes that out. I think that the more awesome part of AI is you can do more with less, or do more with what you have. They're trying to streamline their staff as much as possible, but they're not trying to stream it so that they can get rid of people. They're trying to stream it so they can do 100x more with what they've got, and then keep on hiring on top of that so they can do 1,000x more. So I think it's all about, how do you differentiate yourself to be number one in the market with your use case, employee retention, employees being able to have better tools to not have to do that minutia. And as Natalie said in our last meeting, one of the things that AI does is it stops all of that. It stops anything that makes it so that you're dreading it, like the Excel document that comes in and you have to tear it apart and redo it and move all these things. And having AI do that mundane work has really helped me personally and a lot of Natalie's customers as well.
Yeah, and that's a good starting point because when we're talking about value, I might start at the highest level and say uh, at employee engagement. And businesses are often seeking to improve engagement in the workforce, and with good reason, starting to dive into some of the value. You hit on one of the big ones right off the bat, and that's turnover. Um, oftentimes we have employees bouncing from one company to another, and that creates a lot of problems for businesses because one large study, blanking on who did it, found that an increase in turnover, like just even from like 12% to 22%, reduced productivity by over 40% and had a follow on large financial impact. Engaged employees, 59% less likely to turn over. Reason number two, in why I should say businesses want engaged employees, they deliver better experiences. And one of our former colleagues, Bruce Temkin, started Temkin Group, and which eventually became the Qualtrics XM Institute. They studied the relationship deeply between employee experience and customer experience. And almost 80% of employees, excuse me, 80%, yeah, of employees who work at companies that had a above average, significantly above average customer experience in their industry were highly engaged as paired with only 49% or about half with average or below average customer experience. Hey, it was in the data, engaged employees deliver better customer experiences. But probably one of the least talked about but most important ones was around discretionary effort. And discretionary effort, first of all, it's that, think about it, it's like that when you're going above and beyond. You might have a job description and or like you likely do have a job description and but that doesn't capture everything you do, and that work that you do outside of your responsibility is what we would call discretionary effort. And there's a study that goes back about 8 years ago. IBM did it with Global Force, and they found that 95% of employees that reported a positive employee experience with their company said that they dip into that discretionary effort, meaning they do stuff that's beyond the scope of their job for the benefit of the organization.
Hmm.
And that fell significantly for those that were not engaged. It almost fell to the floor from there. So, you think about that discretionary effort, that's where innovation happens. And companies are always looking for how can they boost innovation. It's a benefit from having a engaged workforce.
So what you're saying, and I think we talked about this the other day, what you're saying is having an engaged workforce and being able to recognize that through artificial intelligence of how engaged they are can also add like a score, maybe. I think we were talking about that before, where AI can really dig in deep and find that discretionary fund that they're pulling that energy out of, and then the business itself can measure that, and then maybe have a more holistic view on who's engaged and who's not, and get them to be that much more engaged because you're recognizing their efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I would put, it's funny, we were talking about the technology that shapes employee experience. And if we divided it, let's just divide it in half and just call them one systems of work. And so that's all of the apps and services that I use as an employee to get stuff done. It might be transactional, it might be content creation, but think about all the tools that you might use to get stuff done. Those are your systems of work. Obviously, AI, and you've been highlighting some great use cases about how AI can help me get stuff done. Now, there's also what I could say that other half called systems of support. And think about all of, again, the services and systems businesses put in place to nurture, grow, understand their employees and how they're performing. And you hit the nail on the head a moment ago is, yeah, absolutely. You can start to apply AI to have insights, access to insights that you might never have. All the pulse surveys and employee listening programs and efforts going on right now. AI has been invaluable in terms of helping companies sift through all of the data and signal so that they can both learn, okay, how are people doing, but probably more importantly, how can they start to move the needle to improve it in some
Yeah.
non-obvious ways?
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like LinkedIn alone. I'm a prolific LinkedIn person. I add stuff all day long, and many times it's for the company that I'm working for. And I'm talking about the product of the company. I'm creating my own content. I'm creating sometimes my own cartoons, the Batman slapping Robin and taking those and writing things out with them. There's not a way that companies today are looking at that and seeing that. Like the marketing people might see it, but it's not being reported up to your boss or up to the CEO on how much effort you're spending on pushing that company's agenda. If there was a way by creating some kind of agent to look at these things, that would be phenomenal for me personally. But there's so many other little things like that that can add to a performance review or be able to gauge what level of engagement a employee has and see that this other person over here might look great on paper and they might be doing some great things, but they're only spending 20% of what these other people are doing at 100%, that those people might be a little bit better and more engaged than others.
Oh, I love that, Barlas. And actually, we're going to connect a couple of dots here because I love what you just hit on. Because we, a few moments ago, talked about engagement. Now, one of the important insights that we learned is engagement is the outcome of a continued positive employee experience. And so that's shaped every day. And some of the early work we're doing, and this is going back over 12 years ago, we started to look for and found some of the answers for why technology matters in employee experience in cognitive psychology. And there are two relevant things, I think, to what you were just talking about. One being the importance of progress or getting things done. Dr. Teresa Amabile, Harvard Business School, she did a study back around that time looking for the conditions, what leads to engaged employees, and bigger than pay and perks and bonuses. Turned out she found the greatest correlation in somebody's ability to get things done, having made a big accomplishment, got something done, correlating the most with engagement. Very important because when you think about our ability to get something done or not every single day, technology has this incredible impact on that. And the second thing I think that's important in cognitive psych is just even going back to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's work. And if you've ever read the book Drive by Daniel Pink, he spent a lot of time on that, popularized a lot of the work around flow. And as it turns out, things like autonomy, mastery, purpose, autonomy, choosing how my work gets done, mastery, making progress, and finding that flow state, and purpose, knowing that my work matters. And that led to a lot of our work around and inspired and fueled a lot of our work around employee experience. Because as I said up earlier, hey, as an IT leader, there's some tantalizing business outcomes that I can attach myself to and
And get funding
add.
for.
Exactly. And the number, these aren't soft benefits when you go back, Apple, Steve Jobs knew that a worker in flow, an information worker, could be up to 40 times more productive than somebody that was not in a flow state. And he was ruthless in trying to find and eliminate blockers to employees finding flow. And yeah, and so that question for an IT leader is how do you ensure people have what they need to do their best work? Because it plays a pretty darn big role in engagement, and it's been a stepping stone to be having a deeper business impact.
Wow, I like that. So AI for flow, breaking down blockers, finding out where the bottlenecks are, and making sure that your employees' experience on how they're getting their job done is as fast and efficient as possible. Getting them the information, the applications, the data that they need to make fast, quick decisions, but also, even more importantly, be able to win fast, lose fast. And you said something interesting before, which was all these AI programs are great because everyone's trying everything out. Everyone is going down this road and saying, you know what, I really would like to try this. And they're going through, and when they realize that it is working, they're going even faster. When they realize that it's not working, they pull back real fast and go on to the next, which is DataStax, that the company that I work for, they just got named on Forrester Wave on the top right quadrant of fastest RAG searches when it comes to AI. Fastest hybrid RAG searches when it comes to AI on-prem and in the cloud. And the reason that I think that's the most important part of picking your solution is because of exactly what you just said, which was win fast, lose fast, to paraphrase. The faster you can lose, the faster you can move on to other things and go down those rabbit holes. Can you give us a specific example, another specific example of how AI and employee experience can be melted together?
Yeah. So maybe we could spend some time breaking apart some of the use cases because you've been listening, to some of the other guests. We've been talking about things like, I mean, one, automating and streamlining workflows. So by that, we're eliminating some of those repetitive tasks, the things that we dread. AI can handle that stuff all day, all night. It can handle data entry, scheduling, processing of documents. The Natalie talked about sales colleagues hand a list of 100 names that I have to now translate into our CRM and actually define some action from it. It can do that, eat that stuff right up. Another one that's big for a lot of us is just support, decision support, knowledge management, and helping us all with decision making. Oh boy, as human beings, we stink at making decisions, and especially when we're
Mhm.
presented with tons of information. And absolutely, we're starting to see AI agents, AI assistants cutting through, supplying analytics and insights to help support better decision making, can improve collaboration, communication with people, smart meeting summaries, real-time translation, helping us pour through our email in terms of intelligent email filtering. Those are just a handful, and we haven't even gotten into the productivity side. So just if we think about these three buckets, automating, streamlining workflows, decision support, or your knowledge management, I would say the third bucket is AI powered creativity and productivity. And that's probably an important insight from my time at G. We did a lot of work understanding where the heat was in AI, absolutely in content creation. And generative AI for creativity and productivity is where we started to see a lot of the investment in the products coming to bear. And you saw a lot of the early use cases around marketing and content generation, but also brainstorming. That's that extra little nudge that we like to get going.
Mhm.
And absolutely in the development world, coding support, enhancing output, quality of the code.
Yeah. Coding support is ridiculously awesome. Although that actually might put some developers out of business, but hopefully not. Hopefully they'll learn to do that much more with AI. As we know, AI is not going to replace people. AI is going to replace people that don't know AI. And that's just how that's going to go. You said something very interesting about the decision-making process. I'd like to touch on that. And this might be a little bit of a touchy subject when it comes to some HR folks that are listening, but I've been seeing a lot of complaints on LinkedIn about I've just spent 35,000 resumes out on LinkedIn and I haven't got anybody to bite whatsoever. And it's been getting worse and worse. My thought on it is, and this could just be me, but my thought on it is that AI is going through looking for a high percentage of likelihood of success for a particular job. And we all know that AI is only as good as the person who's doing the questions, right? I can ask ChatGPT to create a resume for me or create a document for me. But unless I give it some really great parameters to work around, like between this and this, between this and this, it's going to start going very specific. I'm wondering if what you think about AI being a little too strict in its doing of its job for certain things like resumes, reading and going
Mm.
through resumes.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Um,
employee experience.
yeah, you, it's funny. I think for an HR pro, talent acquisition is would be a system of work, but I actually oftentimes I lump it into a system of support for when I talked about systems of work, people how to get stuff done, the tools that we use to get stuff done, and systems of support, those tools that businesses use to nurture, support, grow their workforce and understand. And certainly one of the big use cases right off the bat has been attempting to improve talent acquisition. Human intervention, always important. I spent a lot of time talking with people who also might be looking for roles. And this is a little bit outside of what we're talking about, but um, gosh, there are a lot of, if we use the analogy of, okay, there's a lot of different ways that I can make money or bring in income. Playing a lottery ticket is one of them. And it doesn't always work out, but sometimes I think because of what you mentioned about how many resumes are out there and the kind of volume that businesses have to screen. It often feels like playing a lottery ticket. Sometimes it works out, but oftentimes more likely, I find you hear a lot more stories about people finding those next opportunities because of the relationships and the people they know and through the
Right.
network. And that's why I use the analogy of, and that would be probably more like having a job, is that networking example in terms of finding that next role. And yeah, but just getting back to talent acquisition, the people who are verifying the work, and still lots to be done there to make sure that the systems are understanding the applications and making good decisions. But people
I
still need to get
wonder, I
involved.
wonder if with AI, if things are going to be changing, and this is not something that you and me are probably the absolute experts on, but I wonder in the next 5 to 10 years, if we're going to look at resumes going away and more videos and holistic approach to things using, okay, wow, this person's got 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. This person has a lot of experience on stage. We found it all over YouTube. And then on top of that has resumes and then all the recommendations on LinkedIn and whatever. And maybe looking at it a little bit more holistic than just going through a resume and looking for keywords that another AI has written. So it's basically AI is searching AI resumes to find the keywords that somebody has said in a job request. What are your thoughts on that?
One, absolutely. I think you hit on a lot of the important trends and potential futures. I was also thinking about, okay, improving talent acquisition is one system of support use case. Um, if I'm a business, I'm also thinking about onboarding and how it might improve onboarding, understanding where someone is and helping them come aboard, get up to speed quickly. Big business impact there. But also, when someone is aboard, personalized learning and development. And so you're starting to see right off the bat a lot of our L&D platforms. They're now being more AI driven, can recommend training based on skills and career goals. Again, fostering growth can help with boost employee engagement, but also just even thinking about well-being and work-life balance. I can absolutely and had saw early stuff Microsoft was doing around Graph and other platforms and taking a look at work patterns to look for things like burnout and make wellness recommendations, but also just personalization when it comes to think about the experience and the importance in somebody's life as an employee around things like benefits. I can step in, help customize benefits, provide a little bit more personal assistance just to, because you can't staff to answer all the questions out there. So, how can we help move the needle there as well? So, that was just a handful of different use cases.
I love what you just said. I really do love what you just said about the burnout. I know when we were working many years ago, right after Forrester, I went to ADP. And at ADP, and this was 15 years ago, at ADP, we'd come up with the fact that every time an employee leaves or you fire them or they're gone, and on average in the United States, it costs $75,000 to replace that person. That was 15 years ago. And today it's probably well into the 100,000. So having a burned out employee that just doesn't care anymore, that they're just there, what do they call it? Quiet quitting. And they're just sitting there in their office doing the bare minimum. They don't have any of that extra energy you were talking about that engaged employees have. And maybe one day they'd be engaged again, but maybe looking at how they were on time to all meetings online with the company for the last year, and then all of a sudden they're late by 5 minutes to every meeting they go to, or they're taking a lot of days off, or they're not posting on LinkedIn as much. I think something like that could really find its way to helping someone going, you know what, it's going to cost us $100,000 to replace this person, or it could cost us $25,000 to send this person on a vacation for a week with his family, and he'd come back and he'd probably be that much more engaged, and it's going to cost us $75,000 less.
Yeah.
Those
And
types of information, I think, would be very important to a CEO that's trying to streamline cost.
yeah, absolutely. And I think an important part of that is it's probably these employees aren't reporting directly to the CEO. They're managers, and we talk about the skills gap that often exists for new managers and in middle management, trying to both look for this and also understand what to do about it. Huge applications of AI, one to detect and perhaps better equip managers with being able to see what might be happening, and then also helping with the recommendations and the training. Just that earlier use case around personalized learning and development, helping educate, say, our new managers in the workforce on, you know, what to do, how to how to find it, and what to do about it, and how can you support your employees.
Yeah, that's actually it's funny. I heard something from my wife today about we're switching our provider when it comes to online academies because our children, not to give too much personal information, but our children are homeschooled and they're homeschooled by AI. So there is a program that they take. They go through it every week. They spend 2, 3 hours a day, and this program evaluates how fast they learn something. And if it's below average, it gives a remedial class or a little simpler version of that class so they can catch up and be better. We're switching to a different company that's coming up that's doing it even more. It is personalizing the learning by whether it's a boy or a girl and their age. So it learns how they learn and then also adds all of this data on how boys and girls apparently learn differently, different ways. And so my son's learning course is going to look a little bit different than my daughter's. And as he's learning, the speed of what he's learning is being analyzed by AI. And then he's either being recommended faster courses or slower courses so that he 100% gets it on his tests. And I think that's just an amazing, I thought that was just amazing. And to take that and put that into what you were just talking about, which is employee learning, there's a different way that men and women also learn. There's ways that there is a difference sometimes in the way that men and women perceive things, or there is a difference in the way that someone who's 35 and someone who's 55 would perceive things. And so being able to even tailor made how we're teaching this information. I have ADHD and autism. The way I learn is very different than the way other people learn. I have to see it. I
Yeah.
have to have experience with it. I can't just read a book and be like, okay, I got it.
Wonderful example, Barlas. And thank you for sharing that too, because I think it's a helpful thing to talk about. Because oftentimes we might start to just think, okay, I need to train my BDDs within the Salesforce. Um, and our BDDs are not some homogenous human being. They're they're a group of people that are individuals, might be some divergent abilities, as you were talking about. They're going to learn different ways and at different speeds. And we might tend to think and focus on training a group or a role, but there's a lot of diversity that might exist in how people learn within that role.
Absolutely. Yeah, my old manager, Derek, if you're listening, he and I took the test on security because he was trying to make sure that I understood about security and security in the cloud. And there was a test that I was taking on Cloud University, and I had to take it over and over. I think I took it like 20 times. And it wasn't that I'm stupid because I consider myself pretty decently smart, but at 1210 in my SAT, so I guess
Nodding in agreement, Barlas.
what's that? Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm nodding in agreement. The audience
Yeah, yeah.
can't see
Okay, good.
it.
But the way that it was being taught is here's you read and then got it, take the test, and that's just not how I learned. But the guy who was sitting next to me, that's how he learned, and he got it on his first try. So I think you're very correct. We're all very different in the way that we learn. And if I walk into a company and that company is teaching me the way that I need to learn, I'm going to be productive that much faster because I'm not taking 20 tests. I'm going to make sure that I work that much harder because this company took the time to understand me as an individual and how I should learn. And I'm learning faster. The product, my company's process flows, how to get information, like this is going to speed me up and make me a better employee. So I'm all about learning and then AI learning that can be personalized to the way that I learned. So
Absolutely.
Have we come to the end of our session? I think we're coming up close. Chris, can you tell me what's next for you? What is your next step? Like you've been a Forrester, right, with George Colony Forrester. You have, and I'm going to get into maybe an actually, you know what? I'll get into it right now. It's my podcast. I should be able to do it. The way that I started work at Forrester, did you know this famous story? The way I started work at Forrester, my first IT job, I was ruining the world one loan at a time as a loan officer for Countrywide Mortgage. And one of my friends was getting married to this young lady by the name of Tara. And when we arrived in Dominican Republic at the wedding, there was a Tiffany's box waiting for her. And she opened the box and it was a silver bracelet from Tiffany's and it said, "Congratulations on your wedding, George." And I was like, who the heck sends a Tiffany's box to Dominican Republic thinking that someone's actually going to give it to you? And she said, "Oh, that's my CEO." And I was like, "CEO? What? What CEO sends a Tiffany's box?" Anyway, so I said, "Hey, I'd like to learn more about this company." So she gave me like three of those early magazines. You remember the little Forrester books that they had back in the day?
Yes,
She gave
still
me
have
those.
some.
Yeah, I have them. I still have those. And so I'm looking, and on one of the back pages, George had written a story of how companies' intranets are going to be faster than a company's own search, internal search to be able to find information. Like Google's in search is going to be faster on a company's intranet than a company's actual search of searching through all of its data. And so I was being a smartass at that particular moment. And it said on the bottom, if you have any questions, send me an email. And the CEO listed his email there. And so I sent him an email and I said, "George, isn't this going to cause issues in security of having Google having access to some other company's intranet and all of the secrets of the world are laid bare?" And he said, "Great question, Barlas." He answered me in 5 minutes. "Great question, Barlas. I just landed in London and here's the answer to your question." And he wrote me a long, multi-paragraph of how Google's reputation would go under if any information was ever gone, and they're going to have to say separate and all of this good stuff. And I'm like, wow, the CEO of this multi-million dollar company who sends Tiffany's boxes is responding back to me, a nobody who's not even in IT. And wow, that was awesome. So I asked her, are they hiring at Forrester? And she said, "We're looking for a business development person, right? At SDR or SDS, whatever it was." And I had an interview with Greg and in Dallas office, and they were like, "Hey, can you get us 6 meetings a week for two of the account managers?" And I said, "Absolutely." And they liked me, but then Forrester went on a hiring freeze from June 2005 to December of 2005. And in December of 2005, I sent Greg a pizza. And on the inside of the pizza, it said, "I know I'm cheesy, but I deliver." And I was hired the next day at Forrester. And that was my Forrester story.
Incredible. That's an
Yeah.
awesome, what a
Sorry to go
fun
down
story.
memory lane, but it's a fun story that I like to tell.
Oh, I like it. So you were asking me about what's next,
Yeah.
and I have been now just launching CXV advisory and doing a handful of things. One, competitive market intelligence, whether it be helping companies with market research or doing competitive benchmarking, comparisons, also supporting customers with thought leadership and content strategy. So whether it be white papers, research, speaking engagements, doing things like webinars or live speaking engagements, hallelujah, that we're doing those again and more regularly. And also with the strategy behind that, just helping companies with storytelling, integrating and talking about value within the content that they're putting out, also making it more personalized. I loved the AI use case that you spoke about with Natalie in terms of having our AI personas to help us answer the question, make sure that we're writing for an individual or putting out content for an individual. Also working on something with customers relevant right now to what we were talking about, employee and digital experience, and having been involved in some transformation, helping with frameworks, even assessments and understanding where companies are, But overall, I'm doing a lot around just one-on-one executive coaching and working with leaders on any of the above, whether it be thought leadership, competitive landscape, or employee experience.
Fantastic. And let's add another one. I'm hoping that with your voice, since you have such a wonderful voce, I'm hoping that you will open up a podcast as well, all of your own. And I'm happy to support that in any which way I can, because I think you do have not only great insight into a lot of things, but you're very easy to talk to, and your voice comes across, I hope everyone can hear, very calming, and it works out really well. So I think that you should definitely open up your own podcast.
Thank you. Stay tuned on that. I appreciate that, Barlas. Easy to talk to when you have someone who's easy to talk with on the other side. Very much enjoyed this.
All right, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. Chris Voce, a wonderful human being and very knowledgeable person. I'm going to have his contact information, his LinkedIn, and the books that he had talked about during our conversation. All their links are going to be in the summary of this podcast. And feel free to stay tuned and join us again next week for another Spotify Art of Intelligence podcast. But for now, please just stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Barlas. Thank you, everyone.
Uh, uh.